Well, Dave, we're here at the workbench. Going to talk a little bit about rigs and techniques. We're talking redfish, one of my favorite species.
Well, he's a lot of people's favorite species for several reasons. The main one being that he really likes to eat a lot of different things, and he's usually happy to do it. You know,
that's correct.
Sometimes you'll find some that will snip, put their nose up at you and run away and get spooked. But for the most part, if you find a bunch of redfish together, if you leave them alone a little bit and don't spook them, you can catch quite a few of them out of a school. They like to eat and they do it very, readily. So, it only takes about a year for a redfish to get to be 11 inches long and weigh 1 pound. So they grow fairly quickly once they, get established. Most of the ones that you see in the inside, in the flats and inside on the bays and stuff, they're under 3 years old. Once they get 3 years old, they reach their sexual maturity and they start going out to sea. And then that's usually where they live most of the time. Those great big ones will live way out to sea and come back into the inlets and stuff to spawn and up into the surf areas in the winter times. When the big bull reds come through Texas, it's usually in the winter during the surf, during the storms and stuff. They really like to be in that stormy surf. But most of the time, we're going to be fishing them during now in the summer times. We're going to be fishing where they are right now is on the jetties and in the back bays. And so we use a lot of different tactics to go after them.
You're 100% correct. The gathering up that I believe that's going on at the jetties right now is part of that spawning thing, because they're all monster fish there at the jetties. So when you find them on the jetties, some guys love to fish artificials. Some guys like to fish with bait. So you've created a couple different knocker rigs, one with a big weight and a serious size hook, this Eagle Claw trocar hook.
If you're chasing those bigger redfish in the surf, the 10, 15, 20 pounders, even up from that, I think the world record is 59 pounds in Texas, and it's not unlikely that you'll catch a great big redfish. You're going to need something that's going to hold the weight. You don't really pick the hook just by the size of it. You pick it from how much drag you're going to be putting on it.
Correct.
And if you're going to be putting a lot of drag on a hook, you don't want a real thin circle hook. You want something substantial, a little thicker, that's going to take the weight of a big redfish with a lot of drag.
You're correct. That TK 197, it's going to get the job done.
Now, if you're fishing inside, you could get away with 20-pound leader and a little 4/0 circle hook like this. Most of the redfish you'll catch in the bay, you can catch on that.
Yeah, and if you can't find shrimp or you can't find the bait that you want, whether you use a cut bait or maybe a croaker or something like that, you can always use an alternative. A chunk of fish bites works real well, works good on the jetty. It's going to start dissolving as soon as it hits the water. But the other thing that happens, Dave, is you were talking about their aggression. The cool part about how aggressive they are, they remind me of the mahis when they're on the bay.
Well, when they're on a big school, they get very competitive.
So when Jeff Page and I went there in June, and we found them not necessarily on the jetty, but where the jetty and the land met, where the jetty actually hit the land mass, what we did, because of the nature of how muddy the water is, we threw lipless crankbaits because they make a lot of noise. Now, obviously, a lipless crankbait is a search bait, no differently than a Johnson Gold Spoon. So you could throw either one of these and you're going to catch the poo out of them. Because
there's been a million redfish caught on that Gold Spoon.
Absolutely. The other thing that you can certainly do is you can certainly make noise-making corks certainly have caught their fair share of redfish. Again, you can fish it, cork under a shrimp under a cork. You can use artificials. You can use little paddle tails like this Bass Assassin Elite Shiner.
And that really lets you put the bait where you want it too, because anywhere between 12 and 20 inches below the cork, you can float it right above the grass or right on the edge of the grass, whatever you want to do.
That's correct. And then on those days when you have not too high a wind, which sometimes happens in Texas, you can certainly throw your Berkeley Jaywalkers in the 100 or the 120, but now we've just introduced the Drift Walker, which the difference is on those super spooky fish, guess what? You don't make all that noise, and it gets a lot of bites.
And it has a nice little small profile, which I like for redfish because they have to come up and eat it with their mouth underneath.
You know what? It's just not fair. We never have enough time over here. We're going to have to buy an extra half hour.
I'm impressed, Dave. That was like 70-30. That was great. I'm proud of you. Amazing.